Hello and welcome to week 5 of Pardon the Interception with your hosts Lee Wood.
Coach Conrad Williams is here. I'm back, guys.
And Coach Nick Taylor,
who hopefully won't become a robot this week. Halfway through the season, some interesting games and some playoff pictures to look at. So, as ever, let's start off with the GFL. So, the first game we've got here to look at is the Bulls at the Stars.
Right.
Conrad, what's the highlights from this game?
So where we are at the moment, I suppose, in the season is going into week 5. It's a kind of an intra-divisional week. So lots of teams playing inside the same division, and everyone's trying to figure out, how is each division shaping up? Who's strong? Who's not so strong? Who's going to win at this kind of halfway stage? How's it looking inside the division? And so I've just this week of GFL games, I've just focused on one division and seen how everyone's doing against each other. So the Bulls we've mentioned previously at one stage to show how they did manage to impressively, dominate against one team and impressively fail against another. And well, maybe that was with the Lightning, but the way it pans out here is that the Stars have beaten the Bulls, thus sort of cementing their status at the top of the division, because with a reasonably convincing 10-point victory, that actually puts the Stars on an undefeated record. Their short passing game's done very well, been pretty sort of solid and doggedly consistent from Richard John, one of our GMs, managing to grind out a decent number of yards, and pretty much, he's managed to squeak that enough of an offensive performance out of them to get the win here and top the division.
Let's use the Simon Wood test. Let's have a look at the names. Fairly disappointed by Mr. John's naming convention. Rain of Frogs is a good shout, though. The stances definitely have better names. And some okay names there. Nick, did anything of this game jump out to you?
No, it just looked like an interesting game of two teams that look fairly well matched, really, and must be it's a good win for Richard John to take this one down, because they could have stumbled here.
And a defensive tackle was MVP.
Yeah, the Bulls set themselves up quite well defensively with a 3-4 in preparation for the short zone game, but it seemed that the 4-4 of the Stars was also good at limiting the running game of the Bulls. So the end result was, two teams that clearly knew what was coming, and the end result was that, the Stars just managed to squeak it.
Okay, then the second game is from 10 Division, the Heroes at the Wildcats.
So we had the close game, and now we have the less close game, which is pretty much just a dominating performance from the Wildcats here, who did incredibly well on defense. Did not really give the Heroes much of a look in, holding them to barely even there, 13 rushing yards, 6 total first downs. It's one of those ones where, it was just comprehensive. They built up a big lead and then just kind of cruised their way after the first half, to get that win. And that kind of shakes out the overall division structure, because, the Wildcats are still in with a shout. They're sort of pursuing the Stars and trying to see if they can grab that division title. But unfortunately, this is probably the end of the Heroes' contention within the division. Their question is just going to be, how much can they salvage from this season? And they're going to hope to be able to produce a bit more offense in their next game.
And yet another defensive tackle MVP as well. Perhaps the defensive players in the GFL get more MVPs than other leagues. Nick, anything to comment on here?
Just it's a big one for the Wildcats. I know that they're probably expected to win this one, but keeps them on the toes of the Stars in this division.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd point out probably that maybe something to do with center snap fumbles. This defensive tackle, in that I think that we've got like 3 center snap fumbles or something for the Heroes. So it may be one of those situations where defensive tackle Sheffield was putting a lot of pressure on the center of the opposition and really giving him the sweats.
Yeah, the Wildcats running a 3-man line, getting that nose tackle over the center, probably at a very high level. Or higher level than the centre to help disrupt that. For those that haven't looked into the rules for nose tackles and pressure over centre, it's an interesting read.
Or it's just defensive tackle week on MVPs in the league.
And then that gives us a early playoff picture here in week 5. We can see that in the NFC we have 2 undefeated teams, and in the AFC, controversially, we have Dave Russell only at seed 3.
Still undefeated, of course, so he can't be complained too much at being 5-0. I think that, yeah, certainly there's a bit more going on in terms of other teams in the mix in the NFC, and it's shaking out quite quickly into some top contenders. And many of those names you'll see in the AFC we've talked about in previous weeks. It's, I think that 3-2 is, about as low as you can go around there at this stage. And even then, you're going to be wanting to rack up some more wins. I think we can expect, the Raiders will pick up a few more wins. They've been pretty strong. The Breakers have been a surprise package. And to be a 4-1 at this stage, we'll have to keep an eye on them and see if they can maintain that momentum going into the later season.
With the cutoff in the NFC of seed 6 to seed 7 being difference of a winning record to a losing record, would it be safe to say that these are the 6 teams that we are going to see in the playoffs, and just the order of them is going to change?
I mean, it's entirely possible. You've got the Wildcats, looking likely they're to be a wild card, even if they can't win the division. But the Goats is a weird one. We talked about the Goats previously as well, that they did well on the one side in one game and did horrendously in another game. So maybe they can still come back into contention. I mean, at 2-3, you can still get to 6-4 without complete. It's not the most dominating run to get to 6-4 from 2-3. So maybe.
Yeah, I believe they're in the same division as the Rockets as well, so they're only a game back. And if you're talking about wild cards, they seem to be the real wild card in more ways than one. The Goats, they're swingy games.
Move on to the Atlantic. So we'll start off with our very own New England Redcoats at the Outlaws. Conrad, being one of the coaches in this, feel free to talk us through.
Yeah, I mean, so we've just been trying to scrape ourselves off the pavement, to be honest, after going 0-2, and it wasn't a great start to the season. And since then, it's we pretty much ran into must-win territory very early. Going into this one, the Outlaws have been talked up a fair bit. They've had some good wins on the way. We've been sort of a little bit flying under the radar, being down in third in the division for a while. And it was pretty much, my plan going into this was Phil Holton's got a tremendously good quick defensive end called Flag. And I didn't particularly fancy doing much passing. I got an injured left tackle. So my basic plan here was don't pass and focus almost entirely on the run game. And that kind of worked. I did actually make more attempts on the pass than I wanted to, when my main quarterback tried 10 times. And as you can see, he completed 1. So I would have preferred those to just be bootlegs, to be honest. But yeah, the basic idea did just about work, which was we don't want to pass. As long as we don't fumble it huge numbers of times, we should be okay. I was reasonably confident I could contain his offense, but we just need to get some points on the board and just wanted to run it.
Nick, anything from yourself?
It looks like with this one, the Redcoats really got themselves back into contention. This is a big statement win, away from home as well. So yeah, it looks like the division's all wide open again with this result.
And we'll see if Conrad learnt from our guest host last week. And no,
what's a stance? Yeah,
not so much the stance; it's just the names, Conrad. Come on. Right, and then our second.
He's named his offences.
Our second game is the Nighthawks at the Mariners, a long-standing rivalry going back to the creation days. And I went into this game with a little bit of confidence, mainly because there were some injuries to the secondary of the Nighthawks, which I thought meant that my passing game was going to be more effective than it may have been. All in, I'm very happy with the offensive formation, with the offense performance. Kiri doing what he does, keeping my passing game honest and keeping the defense honest by having a run along with that pass. And I'm happy with what my defense did here. Obviously, I would have liked them to score a few less points, but I was a bit wary as regular viewers will know, going up 21 unanswered points in the first quarter, I was very wary of the rubber band mechanics snapping back in. But all in all, I think my game plan went fairly well here.
Yeah, you absolutely got them in this one, Lee. I mean, this is a pretty comprehensive win. Yeah, going up 21 is already a good start, as long as you can survive the rubber bands. As I commented on this one, will Coach Cooper now accept the Mariners are legit? You got to be thinking, can I get home field advantage? You might want that against some of the big teams like the Sonics. But yeah, it's a good place to be. You're 5-0, right?
I am 5-0, and in all honesty, I think I'm looking at somewhere between 8-2 and 10-0 for the season, because I do have a softer schedule than most to finish out with. Nick, anything from yourself?
It's a big statement when probably your division rivals, the Nighthawks, all right, they've got a couple of injuries and what have you, but racking up 55 points against them is saying something, and I think puts you really in the driving seat to take that division down now, I believe. So yeah, I think anyone questioning whether the Mariners are here this season, I think it's now time to say they are.
And just to prove that I didn't take my brother's advice, oh no, I did try it with a couple of odd names, because I think I went and renamed some stances after that.
Still a few little problems in the team sheets page when it says that you played the roster cuts formation for 815 minutes. It was a long game.
Yeah, I saw that on another game.
Yeah.
Well,
right. Let's have a look at the playoff picture. So, playoff picture is interesting in this league. The MFC is still fairly open. I believe the 6 teams that make it in are already there. I am on record in the Atlantic Avenue of saying that I didn't think that a team from Conrad's division would make the wild card. I'd like to adjust that at this point, and I think the Nighthawks are going to miss out. The CFC, I admit I'm still learning a little bit, so I'll pass it over to the people that have been in the league for a little bit more.
CFC, what's that? I don't know.
What's happening in your division? What's happening in your division, Nick?
What's happening? We're just going to spend the next three or 4 weeks beating on each other, and then see who comes out the best. Because yeah, the Magpies took Brian to the cleaners somewhat this week, showing that they are also the real deal. Because we weren't sure about the Magpies or the Mariners, and yeah, I've got the tough game of playing the Magpies this week. So I think once that game's through the ring, and then we'll really get an idea of who's likely to take down that division. But I still think it's maybe even all three of us. But that one's a little bit sketchier. But having looked at the schedules, I think it's entirely possible. But I think it's still anyone's game. Maybe Brighton are probably too far away to maybe take the division, but wild card's certainly still on the cards for them, because their schedule's certainly a little bit softer. It'll be interesting to see who takes the wild cards in this conference, because I think the Stampede and the Warriors, I'm not sure there's much beyond that. I mean the Kings and Tigers are sort of there or thereabouts. They need a 5-0 really to finish the season to really catch up with people. But then the Kings weren't too far away from beating the Stingrays, so they've certainly got it in the bank to be able to do that. So it'll be an interesting watch. I think the MFC is a lot more open than the CFC, so to speak. Like I think CFC 1 or 2 more weeks, and you might really find out who's going through. I mean, the Warriors have a really tough schedule, if I remember correctly. And then I think the Stampede play 1 or 2 of the other teams in the top. I think they've got the Sharks and either the Magpies or Stallions or something like that. So I'd say the CFC is fairly close to sort of where I'd expect it to be. MFC, it's all to play for.
My other message that I've got in the early playoff picture is you've clearly got two death divisions here. You've got the CFC East, which you've mentioned, which is Nick's division, where the Magpies, the Islanders, and the Scorps are all in the playoff picture. The equivalent in the MFC is the MFC North, which is where I'm playing with Greg and Phil, and we're all up in those top 8 as well. So that's the place you don't want to be, because there's going to be too many tough games. Although we do at least have the Meerkats, so as long as I don't slip on that banana skin myself, but we might still have 3 teams all fighting, trying to see if we can get the title or maybe a wild card.
Yeah, I think I fancy the Redcoats and the Spitfires to make it through in that division. I think the Outlaws aren't quite there yet.
On to the big skies. We have the Packers at the Stormers.
Like a game between 2 undefeated teams.
Indeed.
So Nick.
Yeah, so as Conrad alluded to, 2 undefeated teams, so it's certainly a game to take a look at, see where the teams are, and it's an impressive away performance from the Packers here, picking up the win. A little bit of passing, a little bit of rushing. All right, Washington have really gone for it on first downs with 25-10. They're sort of outplaying somewhat what the Packers have done, but the Packers have just got a little bit of everything and have managed to creep over the line with this one. It certainly gives them the slight edge in division as well. So certainly an interesting one to watch. And I don't think we've looked at either of these 2 teams yet. So you might be seeing a bit more of these 2 teams over the coming weeks based on their current performances.
I'm slightly concerned that running back Paredes might have played for us at Springfield when I briefly coached there in college, and he's not done very well in this game with his 15 carries for 23 yards, 1.5 yards a carry. Yuck.
He got a touchdown, though.
It's still positive yardage.
Yeah, probably like one of those nice goal line stands where he just like rumbled in for like 5 inches.
Right. And then, Conrad, anything else you wanted to add?
I mean, you can see why they're both undefeated teams, and they've really taken it down to the wire going into overtime. So, I'm sure we'll see them again in the playoffs. They're top contenders.
Okay, and then the other one we've got is the Webster Super Weasels at the St. Lawrence Shadows. Nick, do you want to talk us through this?
So the Shadows were a team we briefly looked at last week, I think. It was either last week or the week before. And they've sort of slowly crept up on us, and the performance was quite a good performance a few weeks ago. And this one sort of cements where they are in their division. I mean, it's a good win, and it's a shutout against a division rival. You could say the Super Weasels have had a bad day with 6 turnovers, but there has to be a defense there to do that. And the Shadows defense looks like that might well make the difference for them. They've got a bit of offense in terms of passing, a bit of rushing, but also like a defense that could well take them deep into the playoffs potentially. Something worth looking out for this season.
Yeah, I mean, you look at those stat lines, and it says to me 18 attempts for the quarterback of the Weasels. Sacked 4 times, 3 interceptions. This is, chances are you've either got a deficient left tackle, or more likely you've got some fairly rough pass rush pressure coming in from the Shadows and just really giving him a lot of grief every time he drops back. And they've contained the run as well. They've done it all on defense.
Sure, but he did complete the rest of them.
Yeah, 4 sacks, 3 ints. The rest are complete.
Oh, okay. Moving on to the stand-ins. I would admit I have not looked at the Big Sky much, except for the games we've looked at. So these stand-ins don't mean a lot to me.
Well, I think we're all in a similar boat. I mean, I've looked a little bit more at the Big Sky because I normally end up picking the games for the Big Sky. And it's not surprising to see, the Venice Rivets up there, as we just saw the Bay Packers getting a win. So they're up there. Fremont Fire, of course, who took that loss last week, I think it was. We've got the Shadows. Richard Klein's Buccaneers are up there. the swarming giant hornets of Tripson fame, Tripson class running back that's actually a wide receiver, and he got another couple of 100 yards, I think, this week. So
is the correct term for that a wide back or a running receiver?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Let us know in the comments below.
But yeah, it looks like the Longhorn Football Conference is well open. No undefeated teams there. 3 teams on 4-1, but that just means there's a bunch of chasing teams on 3-2, and there's 5 well in the mix there, and I think Norwich Devils, they're on 2-2-1 as well, so they can certainly streak there to squeak them over the line. But yeah, it looks exciting in the Longhorn Football Conference, and that's not to say the Prospect Football Conference isn't exciting, because there's 2 5-0 teams and 4 4-1 teams, and one of those 4-1 teams is currently missing out. So yeah, a lot to play for in this league.
Yeah, and you always want one of the advantages of going 4-1 early as opposed to being 4-1 now as opposed to 3-2. That usually means you've got an extra divisional win under your belt, and division wins are the first tire break.
I can see that the PFC is full of venerable, experienced, successful coaches who've also coached in the GFL. You've got Whittingham, the more successful Conrad. He's at the top. You got Andy Bate. I think he's still coaching in the GFL. Maybe it's maybe an affinity team. You got Gary Stevens, who's phenomenally successful in college and also has coached in the GFL. Possibly again still does. So you've got plenty of very seasoned coaches there in the PFC who are going to be tough to beat.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Gary's 5-0 in the GFL this season, if I remember correctly.
Right, let's move on to the Continental. So, looking at the Zulus and the Banditos first, pick this out because it was a close game. Just picked out the Zulus just pipping here, and these are 2 teams that potentially are looking for a wild card game. I didn't have time to go through the games in depth, so I did go by scores and positioning more than anything. What I can see here, a nice balanced game. I like the fact that there's a balanced offense that the Zulus are putting out. I always like it when a team are trying to attack both the running and the passing game, as it helps keeps defenses honest. Guys, anything from yourselves?
Let's talk at the same time. Whoops. I really like that consistency of 1 touchdown per quarter. Very steady.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to score 7 every quarter, and you've got to do better than that. Yeah, I like it. I think it's sort of, this game certainly shows sort of what we've been looking at all along, is with that, those balanced offenses are just about coming out on top, and it's probably no coincidence that that's the case. If it's a lot harder to defend against two or potentially 3 zones than it is against 1 to 2 zones, and it's making just that slight bit of difference here and there. And as we can see with this game, it's probably made the difference here.
Okay. Then, Conrad, anything further to add?
Can we have a quick look at running back Hyatt and see what his QST is? Because it's the quick ones you always have to watch out for. Because as Nick mentioned about 2+ zones, if the opposition's got a quick running back and they have any kind of passing game, so in this case the Zulus, they're pretty much automatically attacking 3 zones, because your quick running back can do pitch, sweep to the outside, so run flat. You can do off tackle as a run line play. That's 2 zones already. Then whatever your quarterback's doing, which adds another zone. Potentially, of course, your quarterback can be attacking 2 zones too, depending on how they operate. But it just gives you a lot of different things you have to try and defend. And you can't just aggressively stance your way to victory. You can't say, oh, he's going to do one thing, so I'm going to just stance for that. You have to just defend everything.
Okay. The other game I pulled out was the Venom at the Destruction. Once again, pulled out from a mixture of the results, and also I just like the names of the teams. Slightly less balanced on the offense side here. A bit of a passing fest with Miami's slightly more efficient running game. Looking like it may have been the difference in this particular game. Probably even more so if Miami hadn't turned over the ball 4 times, but they did sneak away with a win here. Nick?
Yeah, I think it's obviously a good win for the Destruction. They've just missed out on the 7-7-7-7 there, so it's a little unfortunate for them. But yeah, similar to the other games, a little bit of rushing just keeps you honest. And I mean, 4 turnovers and still winning the game shows that they probably have the credentials to go and make a run into the playoffs. And yeah, good performance from the Destruction and tight game.
One thing that's very interesting about this one is the Destruction have actually used 2 different quarterbacks, and they've approximately equally spread the workload between them. So you've got effectively two starters going on. You don't see that very often.
And am I right in thinking that Himmelsbach used to be the name of a big receiver in the Atlantic way back when?
Yeah, he's in the Hall of Fame, maybe.
Yeah,
he was Brighton wide receiver, I think.
Okay, and then on to the playoff picture. So fairly different looking here. 3 undefeated teams in the Republic Conference and only 1 in the Union Conference, and a lot of teams chasing up here, and also some names I recognise from other leagues as well showing up here, and everyone's favourite home of Strom, who didn't have a particularly good week this week. He let the rookie below him, or anyone younger than Strom he considers a rookie. He had a much better game, but still managed to get a little bit of yardage, helping bring the Badgers to a 5-0 start. Nick, anything to add here?
Yeah, it looks like the Union Football Conference is potentially a little bit more open than the Republic is, with that only 1 undefeated team, but there's a host of 4-1s and 3-2s knocking around there, and that means it's anyone's game. Even if you're 2-3, you could potentially go on a run and squeak in. Certainly where the Trojans are, there's 2 teams in 3-2 and 2 teams on 2-3 in that division, so there's a lot to play for there still. Whereas probably in the RFC, we're looking at the top 4 certainly have a little bit of an edge over the rest. There'll be looks like a little bit of a race for the wild card positions, but I'd probably expect the top 4 to stay there as the season goes on.
Worth saying that Rich Jackson is pretty much always a caretaker coach. He doesn't normally take on anyone full time, so I think he stepped in on a temporary basis at the Classics, and it's not good form to go into the playoffs if you're a caretaker. So throw some games, Rich.
He is a caretaker in a different way though. I think, as we mentioned either last week or the week before, Coach Quantrill has had to step away temporarily for personal reasons. So he's got a pass to make it into the playoffs, as far as I am concerned.
A pass or a run? That's a real question.
Both, probably. Right, the Delta. An odd week in the Delta, so 2 games I wanted to pick up on. It's the Sunblazers at the Patriots, an interdivision game, and a hotly contested one at that, with the Sunblazers just sneaking a win away from home, helped I think a lot by a team record 5 interceptions given up by the Patriots, for a total of 9 turnovers. I think the thing that Holly needs to take away from this game is she's very competitive in the division and can beat and can win. Shanklin also gave up a large number of turnovers as well, but a four turnover deficit and only losing by 3 points is actually a bit of an accomplishment itself. Nick, anything to add on this?
Yeah, I think we saw in previous weeks that the Patriots defense has come up trumps in the MVP awards, and as you say, 9 turnovers. It's going to be a real struggle to get anything out of a game with 9 turnovers, and to some extent that's just unfortunate. But I'm still really impressed with the Ipswich defense. Another 7 sacks and a couple of interceptions this week. All right, the Sunblazers have come out on top with their interceptions, but I think actually the Patriots come out, whilst they lost, they come out this game looking like a very strong team. Still, with still a lot to play for.
I like to say that regardless of who you are, the left tackle is the most important position on offense. And clearly some of these left tackles are not good enough if they're allowing that many sacks. And often interceptions are not just driven by a problem with the quarterback or a problem with the wide receiver. It's pressure. Pressure often drives interceptions. So, get a good left tackle.
And then the other game I wanted to look at was the Robber Barons at the Cougars. The Robber Barons have appeared a lot in games I've picked. And it's because they're continuing to deliver. They were a team last year that were always threatening to deliver and ended up with a 3-7 season. They've now gone off to a 5-0 start, beating the Hoff here as well. The Hoff is a little bit legendary for having a very slow start to the season and building up. He is not an easy coach to beat. And here we can see that the Robber Barons threw the perfect number of yards. They didn't run the ball. They didn't run for any yards, proving that you can just saturate a one particular zone and picking up a very big win here on the road again, and showing that whilst they were coming so close last year, what they've done in the off-season with drafting and trades and coaching and how their players age was just what they needed to tip them over the edge to become a very much a force to be reckoned with. Nick?
Yeah, we've looked at the Robber Barons stats in the last few weeks with their passing obviously being pretty exceptional, and what we can see here is they've got 2 wide receivers that they've got a lot of yards, but actually they've started on the whole Tripson plan with Macmillan, the tech running back, getting 155 yards in this game, which is so maybe it's working out a lot better nowadays than it used to be, because I'm sure I've tried it in the past and it didn't go down well, but yeah, that's a passing attack I wouldn't want to be facing anytime in the near future. Unfortunately, I don't have to.
Just trying to work out where he's running him. What was the name of the guy again?
It's Macmillan.
Macmillan, yeah.
So he's running in the running back in trips. Okay, I wondered if he was putting him in slot.
What are they up to on offense with this quarterback? I'm not up to speed here. Like Brosius, is he like one of these horrible 2-4-4 quarterbacks, or is it just a lot of short zone?
I think it's 2-4-4. No, 25, 40, 35.
Close enough to 2.
Simon loves this quarterback.
He's doing some business.
What can I say? Glenn has gone all out and built something that attacks every zone.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of strategy is doable, and I think this game kind of demonstrates it. You do tend to rack up the interceptions, but you basically you drive it with the receivers. It's nice to have a decent level in your quarterback too, but if you have one massive tech flanker, one massive quick split end, you've then got an option to receive lots of different passes, and you can put up scary numbers, and over 600 passing yards is a scary number.
Okay, on to the playoff picture. So, little bit of a shake-up than what we're used to in the GFC. Not seeing La Jolla at the top is always a bit odd. And day in, day out, three things you're guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and the Frame Katanas being top of the VFC. Interesting look here at the playoffs. I believe the GFC, I think the division winners are the ones that we see here. The Warriors La Jolla ones are going to be an interesting one. I think the Warriors have just enough to tip them out. I think the Lone Stars are going to get that, going to get a wildcard slot. The Cyclones, I think, miss out to who I'm not 100% sure on at the minute. The Wyverns definitely can rally, but I think that their route out of the season is a little tougher. In the VFC, Frome are definitely in. Colts are going to be definitely in. Rogues Jets is going to be an interesting one. We're actually playing each other this week, and I think the winner of that game, I'm home to them, I think, this week. The winner of that game, because we do play each other twice, is pretty much going to determine, I think, who takes the division I play in, which I can't remember which one it is, VFC East, I think. The Colts, I think they're good. The Sunblazers are in a division with the Patriots and the Fury and another team I can't remember. That's an open horse race at the minute. There's only a game separating those three teams, and the Fury aren't even on the top 8, which is very, very unusual. That division is a super competitive one. So this division, I don't know who's going to take this, but I think the second place from here will overshoot the minors. Nick.
Yeah, like from what I can see outside looking, the GFC looks mostly set on those top 6, but the one team that looks like they could fall away a little bit could be the Cyclones. But then again, the teams on 2 and 3 have to do some work to catch up, and if they end up playing each other, it's going to be tough for them to catch up. So I think certainly the top 5 in the GFC look pretty locked on. The VFC looks far more open because whilst you could maybe lock in the top 4 possibly, barring maybe one of them switching with a 3 and 2. There's 4 3 and 2s there, and another 2 or 3 I think who are off the bottom as well, and I think there's a lot of play there, like the VFC East, the VFC North. There's 3 teams in each of those that are still in it, and as you say, the South is open as well. I'd say the Katanas are the only one who are pretty safe in terms of where they are in their division itself. There's a lot to play for in the D, and
this has also proven something to me, is these playoff seedings don't actually use the actual tiebreakers, because you've got the Patriots in 8th, but they're actually 3rd on divisional record. They're ahead on points difference, which is obviously what that's taken into account, but it should actually be the Fury there in 8th. But as I've said, this division is super tight. Z?
I mean, I like the Strange Fur Miners, partly because of their awesome name, but also we used to cover them back when they're very original, pardon the interception. So we're talking like season 14. It was still Paul Kent in those days. So kudos to him for sticking around. That's been a few seasons since then.
Okay, and on to the Empire. Amethyst Russians at the Wichita Wranglers. That's up. Remind me who picked the games in the E. Was that you again, Nick?
Yeah, it was indeed.
Okay.
And you have to say this is a team we've sort of loosely been following in the Russians this season, because they've won some, they've lost some. The games have been exciting. They looked like they were potentially coming through to challenge for this division, and this was a big game for them. And at half time, they looked in a very good position to take this game. But I don't know what happened in the second half. But the Wranglers really got going in the second half, and their looks like their running game really kicked into gear with some big yards for their two running backs there. I think it shows that the Russians probably aren't quite there yet, but the Wranglers with Zane in charge look the real deal.
It's definitely, from my eyes, the optimizer kicking in for the Wranglers defense and the Wranglers offense, and it's definitely a game that Eduardo's not going to be rushing to play again.
I did warn that when they came across their Quartz Americans that they could be in trouble, and Wichita is in Kansas, so that's good enough for me.
We've certainly been wrangled.
Yeah, our level of puns hasn't been high enough this week. The Birmingham Red Bulls at the Swale Seahawks. Ooh, a 1 point loss. Never a score you want to see as the losing coach.
No. Yeah, this was this is obviously one of the top games of the week. I think two teams battling out for the playoffs, and as we see, they're both fairly evenly matched. Although Swale have certainly outpassed the Red Bulls. Other energy drinks are also available, and so Riker's he's got 4 touchdowns there. That's probably won them the game. Not much rushing though. It's he's probably a little bit behind other leagues in terms of how many options some of the teams will have. So you'll find there will be far more focused offenses, but over time that will slowly creep up. But you'll find that some of the offenses are going to be like really stellar at what they're doing. And the Seahawks look like they really know what they're doing in this division.
Z?
I mean, long gains, right? That's has driven it a lot there, in that they've had these really big passing plays to propel their quarterback to a 132 rating. It's pretty impressive. I think, yeah. But then, indeed, wide receiver Mickelson has a stat line to be envied, with 16 catches for 372 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is absolutely massive.
And
not good enough for MVP though.
Yeah, who's voting on these? Who's responsible for that?
Then on to the playoff pitch. The first thing that jumps out to me here is the Patriots have a broken helmet. And it appears that the Thundering Herd delivered this week. Last week they didn't deliver points. This week it seems like they did win back to their winning ways. From what I see here, both of these conferences look fairly open for the wild cards at least, and the Pioneer Football Conference looks really open for the entire thing.
Yeah. We did see the Thundering Herd get back to winning ways with a classic 37-33 match this week. So another close one for them, and it looks like providing they can keep this going, they'll take a playoff spot. The PFC is full of 4-1 and 3-2 teams, so nobody can rest easy. The Kings got an absolutely massive 75-0 win this week, and from what I can tell, they look like the team to beat, but they have been beaten this season. So, anyone's game in this division, in this conference. Sorry, the BFC looks a little bit more tied up. You've got the 2 5-0 teams, 2 games ahead in each of their divisions, and then the High Hunters look really good. Even if Pat did get a rest this week, I saw he ended up on the bench this week, unfortunately. So he wasn't doing any delivering. He'd been probably out doing deliveries. The the High Hunters look good in that division. Bulls, who we just looked at, they're both on 4-1, so it looks like they're gonna have a real battle there. And then it's just down to who takes the wild card spots between the Patriots, the Russians, and the Junkyard Jaguars. And I'd say it's pretty open between those three. So a lot to play for there. That's, you could see a 2-3 team go on a bit of a run. I see the Adents Lions have won their last 2 games as well, and I think they won 52-0 or something this week. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think they were the ones that beat the Thundering Herd last week as well. So they looked good last season, and maybe they can rack up 5 wins and really challenge in the West as well.
Yeah, I can't believe that 75-0 scoreline as well. Special prize for anyone, because I have not Googled it, to tell me where the Spen Valley is for the Tomahawks. But I guess in conclusion, the one thing I'd like to say on the standings is clearly Coach Zane, formerly of the Atlantic, is enjoying his new home in the Empire, topping the BFC, at least currently on the seedings. And at the halfway point, you'd think definitely playoff bound.
Okay. So, Conrad, do you have any closing thoughts or words?
I mean, around this stage of the season, you can probably start to get a feel for where you think things are going in terms of playoff picture, and that's why we started to sort of flash up the playoff picture slide, right? And to sort of get a picture of where people are going, who we think is going in, how competitive is it, who's in trouble, which conferences are kind of looking a bit wrapped up versus the ones that are more open. So we know a bit more now. By the halfway point, we have a bit of a feel for what the season actually is. So yeah, enjoy the back half, and we'll be back again, I'm sure.
Nick?
Yeah, it's been an interesting sort of mid-season look at the playoff pictures. It certainly helps us out as well to see where we should be focusing on in the coming weeks. And there's still a lot of teams in contention. There's a lot of 2 and 3 teams that can easily come through and put 4 or 5 wins together and end up in the playoffs. So it's interesting watching, and it looks like every league this season is looking fairly open. Okay,
and with that, good luck to all coaches this week, except for if you're a coach playing me. And goodbye from me.
Bye, guys.
See you later, and good luck.